Financial literacy is one of the least talked about or taught topic in today's world. You would agree with me that this has become a major area of deficiency today, and this has resulted in numerous financial mistakes. These mistakes have impeded the beliefs and the ability of individuals to build wealth or attain financial freedom. As a big advocate of financial freedom today, I strongly believe that not only can you achieve financial freedom, you can also teach your kids how to achieve this. In this video, I'll be talking about how you can teach your kids about financial freedom and how you can set them up for millionaire status quickly. Hi everyone, this is Ebuka and this is the Finance Swiss channel. So for the benefit of those that are coming across my videos and this channel for the first time, Finance Swiss focuses on topics around income generation, savings and investments, debt management, retirement planning, and overall financial freedom. As such, if you find these topics very helpful or important to you, ensure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my gems in subsequent videos. Most importantly, hit the notification bell so that you're going to be notified whenever I drop a new video going forward. It's important to know that teaching your kids about money and how to become financially independent is a crucial life skill that has to be taught just like any other subject in school, such as mathematics, sciences, and even English. However, I totally understand that it can be quite overwhelming when determining how to start, where to start from, and your approach for passing on this knowledge. However, I just want you to know that it's just as simple as integrating in your day-to-day family activities such as shopping, traveling, cooking, and much more. Ultimately, the best way to instill these lessons into your kids or children is through leading by example. Specifically, if you don't live a financially conscious life, it will be very hard to impart that knowledge into your children. Now, I'm going to tell you why teaching your kids about financial literacy is super important in today's world. So the first reason is that it assists children to cultivate healthy financial habits very early on in their life, which could overall help them make better informed decisions. The second reason is that it helps children to understand the value of money and how they can make money work for them. The third important reason for teaching your kids about financial literacy is that it helps them understand how to avoid unnecessary debt and to focus majorly on financial independence. My last reason is that it helps them filter inaccurate financial information such as scams that could negatively impact their decision making. So now that you understand the importance of teaching your kids about wealth building and financial freedom, let me show you practical techniques which you can adopt to implement this. So I'm going to be approaching this from two focal points. The first is what I call teaching kids how to build wealth, and the second is what I call generational wealth transfer. Now let's get into the first one, which is teaching kids how to build wealth. According to Investopedia, wealth is an accumulation of valuable economic resources that can be measured in terms of either real goods or money value, and this is primarily measured through net worth assessments. So you can actually teach your kids about wealth building by adopting these 5 techniques I'm going to be talking about now. The first technique is what I call awareness. So teaching your kids about wealth building starts with financial literacy. So this is simply when you create awareness about the value of money, how to spend it, how to manage it, and even how to earn the money, including planning your funds. Now you can teach it through so many means such as sit-down discussions, trainings, and through integration in day-to-day family activities, which I'll be discussing subsequently. For instance, you can teach your kids below the age of 6 years how to identify currency bills, coins, by simply talking to them as they handle the cash. For instance, at the counter when you go to make payment after your groceries or when you collect your change at any store. You can also teach them through examples such as counting games, numbering games, and many more. So these are fun day-to-day activities through which you can teach your children about financial literacy and knowledge about money as a whole. Overall, I recommend you teach your children about budgeting, income earning, spending and borrowing, investment and savings, including charitable giving, which is not very common. So my second technique of focus area is what I call establishing financial goals. So you can actually teach your kids the importance of setting financial goals and working towards it through savings and investments. It's actually okay for financial goals to differ across different families. However, they all need to meet a specific set of characteristics I call the SMART acronym. So the S stands for specific. So this implies that your kids need to be very clear on the financial goals they want to achieve, which you can assist them through. The M stands for measurable. You can support your kids to determine a basis for measuring the achievement of those goals. The A stands for achievable or attainable. You need to be able to support your kids to set goals that are realistic and achievable considering current circumstances. However, don't make it too easy but quite challenging to achieve. For instance, you cannot set a saving goal if the child does not have a means of getting cash, whether through gifts or working or whatever the case may be. That would appear unrealistic. The R stands for relevant. So the financial goals you want to set must be relevant to the financial lessons you're trying to pass to your child. The T stands for time bound. Every goal that you set with your child must have timelines within which it has to be achieved. So to avoid overcomplicating this, setting goals is as simple as converting their request into achievable goals which they need to attain through savings over time. So these savings can then be designed as a means to pay for those requests or partially pay for it. Examples of requests from your kids could include purchasing equipment or gadgets such as iPads, phones, and other electronic equipment. It could also be a request to travel to a desired destination or even paying for a certain type of bill like rent, purchase of books, and so on. Now, once you determine the cost of this, you can then work with your child to set a goal to save up towards fully or partially paying for that item. So another thing you need to also set as part of this is setting a clear reward system. So this system should be designed in such a way that your kids are rewarded whenever they stick to their savings plan or they comply with it. So when you do this, it serves as a motivation to embark on other financial goals, and it also reminds kids that financial smartness or literacy does not imply losing out on fun entirely. So my third technique is what I call establishing guidance on how to track funds growth. Now, under this area, your focus should be on training your kids how to manage their cash flow. For instance, as your kids get older, they'll begin to get some cash gifts, make some salary through summer jobs, and so on. You need to be able to teach them how to track all the funds inflow as well as the outflow from those accounts. A simple way to do this is by setting up a budget. Now, there are different ways you can set up a budget. You can easily do it on Excel or use a budgeting tool. So I've tagged a video here where I talked about different budgeting apps that you can download, which you can use with your kids. So to ensure accountability around the budgeting process with your kids, you need to set up a review session where you can discuss the progress towards achieving all the goals. Now, this could be at periodic intervals such as monthly, weekly, quarterly, depending on what works for you as a family. Now, in those review sessions, you need to explain to them that not every funds they receive would typically need to be spent, and that means that they need to save for the rainy days or what I call emergencies. So next, you want to explain to them in some of those sessions is the difference between needs and wants, and showing them how to classify these expenditures into each of these two categories based on the value of those expenditures to them. In doing this, you'll be able to identify discretionary expenditures that can be saved and even impulse spending that could be completely avoided. To make this very practical, you can simply purchase a piggy bank, for instance, and request that they put their savings into it, whether a coin or a banknote. Lastly, still under this is that you need to also explain to them the importance of giving and charitable donations. So you can engage them in different discussions around causes that are important to them and encouraging them to give to those causes. So the fourth technique is what I call use of other people's money, OPM. So as a parent, it's important for you to train your child on the importance of leveraging and the use of other people's money. So this includes the use of credit cards, loans, lines of credit, grants, and effectively using this as an advantage for wealth building. Now let's talk about credit and loans specifically. It's important for you to establish that use of funds such as loans and credit that are typically borrowed from other people or institutions would have to be paid back, and it comes at an additional cost, also known as interest. However, borrowed funds can be very beneficial if utilized right, which is to generate income that exceeds the cost of borrowing those funds. As such, it's important for you to teach your kids the importance of repayment and borrowing funds within the affordability threshold. For a start, you can consider providing prepaid credit cards to your kids so that it limits whatever they are spending to the amounts they can afford. Another type of OPM is what I call grants, scholarship, and even gifts. Teaching your kids about how to take advantage of debt-reducing opportunities is super crucial when it comes to financial independence. You need to encourage your kids to be on the lookout for grants, scholarships, and other related gifts that could reduce their overall costs or indebtedness. For instance, these scholarships can be helpful to reduce the cost of purchasing books or even their tuition costs overall. It could also save them from immersing themselves into heavy school loans down the line. So the fifth technique I'll be talking about is what I call the credit score building. If you live in a credit-driven society where majority or large purchases are driven or tied to credit, it will be very beneficial for you to teach your kids how to build and maintain good credit scores. Now, this all starts with creating awareness about what credit scores are, why credit scores are used, the parameters for measuring credit scores. And I'm sure you're already aware of parameters for measuring credit scores, such as payment history, which accounts for 35%, credit utilization, which accounts for 30%, length of credit history, which accounts for 15%, hard credit check or new credit, which accounts for 10%, and credit mix or variety, which accounts for the last 10%. So if you need more detailed information about how to improve your credit score, I've tagged the video here that you can watch and make reference to. Another very important strategy on credit cards is to include your kids as authorized users of your credit card and even become their co-signers. That way they can leverage your own credit score to build their own. Now you may actually be wondering, when do I start teaching my kids about these things? Well, I want to tell you that you can actually start from today. It's never too early to start teaching them about financial literacy. The earlier you start, the better for you. Now this brings me to my second focal point, which I call wealth transfer and management. In your quest for wealth building, it's important to know that growing your net worth alone is just a fraction of the entire piece. The other key component, which is least emphasized, is the seamless transfer and inheritance of your wealth by the next generation. Now, those that will be receiving or inheriting this asset or wealth are typically known as beneficiaries, which could be your kids in this case. Now, wealth transfer can actually be done in several ways. I will just be discussing 4 of them only. According to stats provided by Go Banking Rates, 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by their second generation, and 90% lose it by the third generation. This simply implies that generational wealth can be very hard to sustain. Now, onto my first technique. Number 1 is what I call the Registered Education Savings Plan. Now, the RESP is a government-approved tax savings plan that allows you to transfer cash value to your kids. So the RESP provides a tax shelter vehicle where you can save for your child's future. With a maximum lifetime contribution of $50,000 per child or beneficiary, you can create a pathway to a debt-free life for your kids. It's also important to know that the government gets to contribute into this account in form of grants, which can typically increase funds availability and funds growth into the long term. Now, with your investment of these funds into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, GICs, you can exponentially grow these funds. The second means of transfer is what I call life insurance. So a life insurance is an agreement between the insured, which is you in this case, and the life insurance company to pay your beneficiaries a guaranteed tax-free sum or death benefit upon your death. So the amount your beneficiaries get will typically be dependent on the type of insurance you opt in for. Also, this amount will be guaranteed only on the basis that you consistently pay your premiums and you comply with all the policy requirements established. So this lump sum paid to your kids or whoever your beneficiaries are will serve as a means of wealth transfer. So I did a little research on how people use life insurance to build generational wealth, and this was a strategy I noted. Assuming an individual buys life insurance with guaranteed payment amount, say $1 million. Upon the person's death, the funds are paid into a trust as instructed by the individual. The $1 million payout is then used to buy additional life insurance for all his kids and family members, including the payment of the premium. Let's assume a family of 5 for the same $1 million each. This automatically increases the coverage and final payout to $5 million for all 5 people at no cost to them. This tradition continues on and on, thereby significantly expanding the horizon. Now you can clearly see how a $1 million has grown into a $5 million at no cost to those individuals. So the third tool I'll be talking about is wills. So a will is an estate planning tool which provides a clear direction on what should be done to your estate when you pass on. So it spells out clear instructions on how you want your assets or your overall estate to be distributed. So for you to create a will, you need to list out all your assets, establish who the beneficiaries are, including guidance for minors, and who the executors would be. So the executor is the one who is responsible for implementing the owner's instruction. Now, I believe that this is a very effective way to transfer wealth to your family or your kids. So a very common misconception I've seen is that some people believe that only the wealthy and the old people that are required to prepare wills. However, if you have reasonable number of assets, properties, and children to cater for, getting a will prepared early is very crucial for you. So the fourth thing I'll be talking about is the trusts. So it's clear to everyone that when you have an estate plan, you get so much confidence around how your funds will be distributed, even when you are alive and of course after death. Some people think that will alone is enough. However, it's very important to know that even the instructions in the wills can be challenged, and this can lead to a very long legal probate process. So a legal probate process is one where the court supervises the distribution of the assets after validating those assets of the deceased person. To avoid all of these lengthy processes, it's recommended to have a trust. So a trust is a relationship in which one party, who is the grantor, gives a second party, the trustee, the right to hold title to property or assets for the benefit of a third party who is the beneficiary. Most times, the trust stands as a separate legal entity, just like an individual or corporation, and it typically holds and manages the assets on behalf of the beneficiaries. Assets could include property, deposit accounts, investments, life insurance policies, collectibles, antiques, and so much more. So let's talk about the challenges that people have faced regarding wealth transfer. The first is what I call limited financial literacy. Of course, you cannot give what you don't have. If you don't have the knowledge, it's going to be very hard to pass it on to your kids. The second is what I call the unclear or undefined plan for transferring wealth. Now, it's very common knowledge and many families are uncomfortable with discussing about what would happen to the properties or assets of a family member when they pass on. It will actually be very beneficial to have those conversations and put plans in place to make coverage for them. So this can simply be done through regular family meetings, and these family meetings also help to make younger generation understand the importance of money and finances even better. Alright, thanks for taking the time to listen to me, and I hope you found the information very helpful and insightful to you. So if you're interested in more personal finance topics, ensure to go back to watch a couple of my older videos, and ensure to like, share and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my videos subsequently. Thanks, and see you at the next video. Bye.